welcome back to part three of our year-end discussion. Report cards are going out, folks. Is your driver in trouble, or is your driver on easy street? Well, we're finna get into it. We're talking about the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series on this last and final episode of the series, and I'm gonna tell you, folks, more likely than not, your driver is probably in trouble because the general consensus among us is we do not care for the Truck Series here. Um, so I don't know who should go first on this because I really don't know how long winded some of us are going to get. Um, any
Let's
volunteers? Danny, you can go first.
Yeah, I'll go first because I
Okay.
can keep this short. Truck series, F all of you, summer school. You.
Remediation.
I don't care who you are. I don't care what team you drive for. All of you suck. No, actually, it's a bit more nuanced than that. So let me give honestly the serious answer. I mean, and to be fair, I am being kind of serious. The standard of driving in the truck series, and we have beat this horse as long as this podcast has existed. The standard of series driving in the truck series is absolute garbage, and that is something that really, really needs to be looked at. Um, and it's the reason why, truth be told, I am not a Truck Series regular viewer anymore because I got very tired of that many, many years ago. But for this podcast, I put up with this. So thank me later. So anyway, it's going to be a little bit more clustered this time. So we'll start from top and we'll work our way down. Given sort of the spirit of what we've been doing, I'm going to give my A to Raj, actually. He's, as we've talked about, truck series driving, very bad. He's gotten caught up in so many wrecks that absolutely were not his fault, and he was just an innocent bystander. But when you get past that, oh, and the fact that the truck blew up half the time. But when you get past that, Raj drove beautifully. You know, it's the same thing that we always say the same thing that we kind of capped off the Xfinity episode with. But get him in some good equipment. He has the pace, he has the racecraft, and certainly most crucially in the lower NASCAR series, he has the patience. I think he is a great driver, just waiting in the wings. But you just need to get him into a quality ride. But the fundamentals are all there. And certainly amongst the band of idiots that is trucks, he is my very clear A. Um, and now for my B driver, I am going to go. I gave him an honorable mention for his stand-in performance in the Cup Series, but B driver is Hocevar. He's fast. He's just quick. No ifs, ands, or buts. But there are certainly some kind of rough edges to sort of round off here. Mostly that he has a habit of driving through people. Which he needs to get that in check real quick because he's not going to have a fun time in Cup if he continues with that. But the raw pace is there. He just needs to. That's where he needs to. I think emotionally needs to develop a bit as a driver. And now granted, certainly truck performance because since he's going to Cup, that's kind of a moot point. But I think he can continue to string together some decent results if he just kind of levels off a little bit. My It's tough. My my C driver is actually gonna go to and actually they're gonna is gonna go to Tanner Gray. Um Certainly he and his brother, both certainly show some they both actually show some flashes of, brilliance. Certainly there were some weekends that they've got speed. They kind of run in kind of mid-tier equipment, but there are glimpses, there are bits of brilliance. Say that top 5 times fast. And I think certainly with a little bit more time and just a bit more refining, I think that there's some real potential there. And I'm eager to see sort of where they go from here. And certainly for me, that's where I'm going to cap off the letter grade selects because for the rest of it, honestly, I hate you and goodbye.
Hey, like I said, man, it's a trail through the mud on this one. Art, Jared, do one of y'all want to go up next?
Yeah, I can go next. I think I can be probably about as brief. At least that's the goal, right? Yeah, man. I'll start at the top. I feel like the last two I start from the bottom. I'll start from the top and work my way down to the dirt. I give my A to Ben Rhodes. I'm gonna stay consistent. I'm not gonna be a hypocrite. You won a championship, man. Period. That's all I can say. You won a championship, and you know what? Good for you. Like the record will always say, Ben Rhodes, 2023 Cup champion. No further questions will be asked or taken on the topic. A minus, I'm gonna give to Zane Smith. A name that we don't really talk about a lot on the show, but he was good enough to graduate to the Cup Series. So you know what? Maybe your performance this season was great. It was good enough to get you to where you wanted to go. And so we're gonna say you had the grades to get into grad school. So good job to you on that. You know, that's the ultimate goal. And honestly, if I had a choice between finishing, top 4 in points versus getting into a cup car, I'd probably take the cup ride, to be honest with you. So I give you an A minus for that. My B, I'm gonna go with Raja. I'm grading everyone on my personal curve, and so he gets big points for that. He had a really, really solid second half of the season, and was just really consistent. And to some of Danny's points as well, she took a lot of what I wanted to say, unfortunately, but he really had a good season. Got a lot of experience. Like, it's kind of funny. Like, we think about him and we know he's a young driver, but sometimes it's easy to forget how little seat time these guys have right now. And for Raj at this stage in his career, like, respectfully, he's a little baby, right? Like, he really just got here. And so, like, he's only gonna get better. And so for him to have some of these solid performances, it's just really a testament to some of his natural skill and the work that he's done. And so I only expect better things for him, in the future. So that's my 3. So I only gave out 1 F so far. I'm gonna go dueling Fs right now. Carson Hocevar, Corey Heim, come on down, bro. Your summer is booked and busy. You ain't going out. You ain't playing no football.
Yikes.
You ain't watching no TV, bro. You gonna sit right here in these books because y'all boys got some F minuses. You hear me? If you've ever in a class and they say, so just so you know, the highest score was 100 and the lowest score was a 15. Y'all a 15, my boys. Like, y'all really went and just really showed your asses this year, and specifically at the end of the season. Because at the end of the day, like, all I'm really going to remember about this truck season is Phoenix, and that's why this gets weighted so low. On our Cup recap, I gave Austin Cindric an F. His F was like a 60. Like I said, these are like 15s and 10s. Like, they absolutely crushed it in the worst possible way. Extra points to Corey Heim for not only taking out Carson, but his own teammate. So, way to go, my guy. So yeah, both they get dueling F minuses. And they really are kind of carrying the banner for the truck series in my eyes. I won't get too deep into the weeds. I love the Phoenix episode as well. Please go listen to that if you haven't for my thoughts on the abomination of a truck series. But those are my letter grades for it. And if you weren't on this grade on this list, it wasn't good for you. I'll put it that way. You didn't impress in the worst way. So step your game up.
Yeah, to be fair, the curve that I was grading for this is just the truck series, so it is a perpetual rolling show.
You aren't wrong for that.
All right. Well, my letter grades in descending order. Well, no, ascending order. We start from the bottom, then we go up. F. Matt Crafton. You still haven't paid for your crimes, sneaking Nick Sanchez the way that you did, sir.
Yeah.
If you find yourself in an infield care center a lot next year, it's your own damn fault, my boy. You a grown ass man and you sneaking a kid. You need your ass beat. How about that? Let's do that. D's. I'm in agreement with everybody. You know, Carson Osavar, Corey Haim. Totally unnecessary. Carson, for your fake tears, looking directly in the in-car camera, you must have seen the red light because you put on a performance. It's almost Emmy winning worthy. In my opinion, like you literally took the time to lift your visor and rub your eyes to let us know that you were crying tears of sadness that you ruined this man's waist. I guess it's a good thing that Kyle Busch no longer drives the Toyota product anymore because if Corey Haim was on his team, he wouldn't be a driver next year. I promise you that boy would be in the streets for wrecking a perfectly good race truck. Let's get back in a championship race. Failure to you, sir. On the effort, well, I wouldn't say on the effort, on the subject of mediocrity and trash, I'm gonna go out in left field. You know, Matt DiBenedetto, I'm gonna give you a C. You're the only person that talked yourself out of a job and still managed to finish in the top 10 in points. Like you weren't even here.
That's
And you
actually
finished
crazy.
you finished top 10 in points. That's
He doesn't even go here anymore.
He
right.
didn't even
That's,
go here
that's
anymore.
honestly, he gets a C because that's so damn impressive. It's like he skipped like the last 9 weeks of school and he still gets rewarded for it. Like is he still going to Nashville? Does he still get to eat the trough?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh
man.
God, that's a good
Yeah, that's
question.
awkward. Yeah,
I
that's
feel like
awkward
you got
as
see now.
That'd
If
be
you
weird.
if you're really about it, you show up bright and early, and you.
Oh, you got to be
you're-
first. You got to be first. You got to be front row.
Yeah,
Dog,
you know,
if
you
my
got to
eye-
be fresh shave, fresh haircut.
You need
in
to
the
be right
front.
next to the
My
championship
eyes
winners.
made a
Like,
sound when
gotta
they
be there,
rolled.
baby. You got to be
Oh,
live.
God.
Yeah, but that's talk about like everybody has like that senior season or like I'm gonna take that fifth year lap. He took that lap and by golly, if he didn't make himself look presentable, marketable, and decently almost successful to fail his way into a job next year. So we'll look out for the Benedetto silly season. I'll give the B. I'll give my B. I'll just give it to all of GMS Racing, to Grant, to Daniel Dye, even though he didn't do anything to deserve it. Riding on the coattails of Raj and Grant, just that whole team, for them to be there to sign our see a season, just to be, you know, 1 or 2, 3 events of malfeasance away from literally walking off. That would have been an amazing story to write. So mainly for Grant for just not finishing. What did he didn't finish worse than 30th or 20th or something like that the entire season. Just to put that body of work together definitely proves why he was in the championship for and driving for a championship. As a team owner, you can't want more than that, just to keep the truck right, cut the truck tightened and to finish every single race. So definitely shout out to Grant and all of GMS for the work that they did. And then my A, you know what? I'll give it to Nick Sanchez. Oddly enough. Do I like him as a person? No. Do I like him as a driver? Not really. Do I feel sympathetic that he got snuck by Matt Crafton? A little bit. But for him to just continue with Rev Racing and everything that they stand for, with the Drive for Diversity program and all the ignorance that I've seen the last 3 weeks on X or Twitter or whatever it is, about drivers and drivers diversity and that whole 9 yards. I'm not gonna just spiel on that, but for him to continue to prove why the program exists, and why it's hopefully still going to maintain its success is a great thing for the sport. I want to give an honorable A to Ryan Vargas and Brad Perez, 2 friends of the podcast. They showed up and showed out when they had the opportunities in the trucks this year. So I would be remiss if I didn't thank both of them. They took a chance on us, letting us interview them. And they proved worthy being in the prospective trucks that they were this year. So just want to give them both a shout out. And hopefully we can get some rides for them as well next season, even if it's a part-time schedule, just to get them back in a truck so we can continue to see how well they perform and then the talent that they have, so we can get them full-time rides here in a season or two.
Now we're doing friends of the show. See, that's not fair.
Are they not?
I mean,
They're friends of the show. Shout out Ryan. Shout out Brad. What's good?
Yeah, I did it for Xfinity, so
Yeah, actually, that's a good point.
All right, fine, whatever.
Yeah,
But actually, I did forget before we move on. I'm sorry, Carl. I did forget my dishonorable mention. It's De Benedetto. Like, how in the hell are you on track for a top 10 and you talk yourself out of a job? How? Well, I mean, it's because it's De Benedetto. I mean, that's the answer to that question. But that is just chef's kiss. I've been, joking with, on Twitter that, certainly the project for our other show that I've been working on would be deemed unrealistic by Hollywood scriptwriter standards. This absolutely falls under that category. Like, that's I mean, genuinely, it feels like that would be like just a throwaway line in Talladega Nights or something. This dude running well and ran his mouth and lost his ride. Like, just 10 out of 10, chef's kiss. I love it. I don't really. But that Matt is my dishonorable mention.
I rock with it, for sure, man. So truck series rankings for me, report card time. Everybody gets an F. No, I'm kidding. I will say, I will say though, nobody gets an A. It's A- on down. Like how it was in high school. Teacher come in there like, look, nobody got an A, so the highest score is going to be what I grade to. So I don't know whether to start with my worst to first. Yeah, we'll do that. So my F is from Matt DiBenedetto, man. I understand top 10 points. That's cool, but look, bro, I don't know how old that man is, 30 plus. You too big to be having toddler meltdowns over what I'm assuming is not getting your way in discussing what your future plans with an organization are. I know some of his fans who are blindly saying, "Well, Matt should have got this ride or that ride or X, Y, Z," whatever the case may be, man. Race teams that are self-funded just don't fire guys because they feel like firing them or whatever, right? Like, they took a big chance bringing him into the fold after he got let go from Wood Brothers. And so, as far as I'm concerned, for them to announce for him to announce he's not coming back next year, and then not elaborate any further. And then once he realized he wasn't making the round of, I don't know, what is it, 8? Is that the last round they have for the truck series before the round of 4? Okay, we don't know, but but for when they realized they weren't advancing, for him to be like, "All right, peace, y'all, I'm out." Yeah, man, that's sour grapes all day, bro. I can't respect it at all, man. I mean, like I said, if y'all struggling together to be there to the end, I don't know how many drivers over the course of me watching for NASCAR for 20 years have had, um, lame duck seasons with a team that they weren't going to return to, but they stuck it out. Kyle Busch, despite Joe Gibbs Racing giving him awful pieces during the playoffs last year, didn't just be like, "All right, man, y'all got it. Y'all put somebody else in the car. I'm going to go chill with my family for a couple weeks." So, yeah, that's for me all day long. The other F plus for that matter, I'm going to give. That's a grade lower than an F, even though it doesn't sound like it is. Matt Crafton. Buddy, you old enough to be a store manager at Walmart, and for you to, or Menards, let's get the brands, the sponsors accurate. For you to sneak for you to sneak a young Nick Sanchez like that, after all the bonehead stuff you've done in your career, and then on top of all that, post your response to that, try that in a small town song, man, get that away from me, dog. I don't want nothing to do with that tractor salesman face ass dude, man. Get out of my face. Now, no offense to anybody that may sell tractors for a living, but I have always had this thing for Matt Crafton, and buddy, that just cemented it for me. Like I said, I mean, also I think he didn't win anything this year either. Your teammates was winning, you wasn't. What's going on? However, I will say that of that Talladega situation comes one of my honorable mentions. I have two. One of them being shout out honorable mention for Corey Roper. I never knew what he looked like till the end. And shout out to him for being a Matthew McConaughey impersonator because, um, look, man, I'm just gonna say it like I said, and I'm straight as an arrow. But dude, it's kind of dreamy. It's cool that you just racing trucks on the side like that, So whatever. My D goes to Jack Wood. My man. How you finish 26 in points in the Cowboys Motorsports truck? How does that happen, my friend? I don't understand it. Chase Purdy finished like 11th, and you finished. Well, what were you doing? I don't understand it. Like I said, maybe is that why Kyle sold the team? Was he that depressed that he was finally reached the point where he hired somebody with more brains, with more look, man, with more money than brains? Because come on, 20 in a Cowboys truck in a 32 truck field, 34 truck field, and you finished 26? Nah, buddy. Anyway, I don't even know what he's doing next year. He ain't coming back. I know that much. He ain't gonna be a Spire. I believe anyway. My C, a little controversial, but C stands for Carson Hocevar. First and foremost, and I need this time stamped art. Take off that silly ass hat. I I don't know, man. Trying to be like the little quirky dude on pit road, that got old to me quick. And but the other thing is, you say, well, Carl, why would you give him a C? He won 4 races this year. Well, let me say it like this: I'm playing NASCAR Thunder 2004 right now. That's my winter plans is to play through that. And if y'all don't know, the older NASCAR games had a rival and ally system, which is where like when you hit guys, they are highlighted in red, and they won't wreck you. And if that applied to Carson Hocevar today, it would look like he was racing against Olaf Tifosi, Tifosi, or how you pronounce that, Danny. I don't know, but it'd be a sea of red because he found multiple ways to get into people all throughout the season, and every time tried to shuck blame, like I don't know what happened. This Steve Urkel ass dude. Did I do that? You know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. I'm happy that he showed up and showed out in his Xfinity start and his Cup starts and stuff like that. I just really hope he can if he can just not drive over his head. We've already got one of those guys in the Cup Series, and he don't stand but like 5'1". Y'all know who I'm talking about. If you don't, oh well. We don't need another guy that does that in the Cup Series. So Carson needs to, really rein it in. So he gets a C for me this year. I mean, you threw away your shot at the championship, like I said, by trying to be too egregious. I understand you're trying to get all you got, but my man, like you knew you was entering the corner too deep. You knew how that was going to play out, and you had to have known that he was going to get retaliated against you for that happening. My B on the year in reality probably should be an A. I was gonna make. Let me go back. My B minus, and I was gonna make him an honorable mention, but I think that if we can bend our rules however we want to. So if I were to grade Raj on the second half of the year and the performances they put up in the playoffs, I'd give them a B minus. With just like somebody else said, limited track time, no testing. I mean, a lot of this information I go to the track with is sim based information and stuff. And Raj did really well when the truck wasn't breaking, when he didn't get screwed over by cautions X, Y, and Z. He was right there in the mix. I think about Homestead was a race where, he was right there for a good chunk of it. He told Bob Pockers that the team he's going to be with next year for trucks, whether it's full time or not, it's going to be some of the best stuff he ever drove. So I am excited for that. I'm hoping he gets some more time in Xfinity also, but I give him a B minus. I mean, just to go from a few truck starts last year to full time this year, and really put some good runs together, regardless of how they finished. Was really awesome to see. So I'll give him a B. The other B minus, the other B I'm going to give out is Christian X. Man, 4 wins on the season. Under the radar, not controversial, very solid performance. And I don't have a lot to say about him, but I know that team over at Bill McNally Racing has been trying to really gain a foothold for a little bit and trying to really solidify itself with the money that Bill has and all that good stuff. And so for them to have the season they did with Christian, I thought was really cool. So, just hoping they can back it up next year and be in a much better position as far as that goes. Not a lot to say, but I had to give somebody a B. And my A minus because nobody gets an A. Corey Heim. I really feel like for whatever reason they the production staff and everybody really hyped Carson Hocevar all year long, but Corey Heim put up very similar numbers, and in some instances, if you looked at it with a certain lens, better numbers. I just feel like he was just not as controversial until the very end of the year, and however and with reason, I'm not going to say with good reason, but with reason, he was controversial in Phoenix. But yeah, he was silently chipping away at it for sure. Really helped Tricon gain their footing for the first year for that organization. And, I feel like he's going to be probably a really solid force next year. I think he'll be probably, top of the board with Carson out of the way, and all that good stuff. So, really excited to see what he can do next year. But that's my ranking for that. And that's all I got. So, we are going to take a minute. This is the third episode of a 3-episode series. So this is the end. And we're just going to open it up a minute. We're going to go ahead and rank and grade each series individually. Which there's obviously some points for discussion here. I'm going to go ahead and lead us off since I'm still talking and I'm long-winded. To give an overall season grade for each 3 series, I give Cup, man. I can't give Cup anything higher than a B. Definitely some solid moments for sure, but at the end of the day, we've complained. We did, I think I said we did 21 episodes, 21 races is what we covered in the regular show. And for 21 straight weeks, we complained about this next-gen car. And then we talked in the spaces last night about, the stage breaks and everything, although that's not just a Cup Series problem. But, yeah, it's hard to watch that car. Like I said, I've said it before on the show. It's very frustrating that we had a package with the Gen 6 that did not race good on 1.5-mile tracks because of how aero dependent it was. And so NASCAR's answer was to put in more short tracks. A dirt race was to put in more road courses to kind of mix all that up. And then we go to a car that is terrible at road courses and at short tracks. And we've been good at intermediates, but we've lost all the intermediates. We don't go to Kentucky, we don't go to Chicagoland. We only go to Charlotte Oval once a year. Texas sucks. They turned Atlanta into a super speedway. So this car doesn't have a lot of opportunity to really show what it's good for. And I know that they are working actively on that. I would almost bet money we show up to Daytona in February with a 4-speed gearbox. It sounds like the direction they're going, but I have to give them a B. Xfinity man, we again all year long we said, hey, it's the best product of the weekend, and I agree with that. I have to give it an A. Some really fantastic battles. Some really great moments. Josh Williams at Atlanta. Shout out to him for getting a colleague seat. I think about AJ Allmendinger getting the win at Circuit of the Americas is really cool. There were just John Hunter Nemechek's, domination through the regular season. Just a lot of different storylines playing out over the year that I just thought were phenomenal and really cool to see. Dale Jr. returning at Bristol and at Homestead and running really good. Again, just a lot of takeaways, a lot of talk about it. It's a lot of fun, FUN, fun. The other only F word we say on the show that I don't censor. So I have to give them an A. I think that they, did a really phenomenal job this year, and I'll give them that. The Truck Series, man, you guys have probably already guessed it, but honestly, I would say they're deserving of a D. But sometimes you're deserving of a grade, and your teacher gives you another grade because they hate you. And I'm giving them an F because, and I'm gonna tell, and I'm weighting that decision entirely on the fact that you put all of this money into marketing, making commercials, trying to sell everybody on how important Phoenix is as a race. And then your broadcasting team is not even at the track for the most important race of the year. That is blasphemy and that is asinine. So for that and the rest of the terrible calls, the officiating, just the racing product, guys running into each other and wrecking all these daddy's money's kids, X, Y, and Z, the series as a whole gets an F for me for this year. And I hate that because I loved the Truck Series. But sometimes you gotta you gotta move on. So that's my take on the other three series for the rest of the year. And we'll pass it on to whoever wants to go next.
I feel like as great at points in time the truck racing was, because I feel like when they're not being idiotic, the Truck Series puts out a great racing product as well. And it's like you look at the body of work as a whole, and then you just see Phoenix, and it's like you have to give them an F from, to your point, Carl, from the series itself and the officiating and the drivers to the channel that has the production rights and their lacklusterness of the entire season, let alone the Pied de Resistance, the season finale. It's butt, straight up cheeks, bro. It's ass. I give the trucks an F2. Which sucks because it's a lot of great up and comings there. It's got a pool full of talent, absolutely full of talent. It's just that they just don't know their lefts from their rights, whether they're on road courses or whether they're on ovals. Hopefully some racecraft is learned and found in the off season, and maybe we can change our tunes next year. For Cup, I don't know, man. It's a lot of promise was made with this car. A lot of things were promised to us, both by race directors, race officials, and the OEMs themselves, just in regards to how these vehicles were going to perform on track. And then for them to know that each one costs the same MSRP of a Porsche 911 Turbo S Cabriolet, that doesn't leave a good taste in my mouth. With the charter system and our wants and desires of other people buying into the sport, other owners coming to the sport. At this rate, Junior is never going to get a Cup team because yesterday's price ain't today's price. It's outrageous. And then with the short track program being non-existent, I have a hard time rooting for a series where you left your grassroots demographic behind. Short track racing, or not even that. In the 90s and early 2000s, NASCAR and Speedway Motorsports kept buying and kept building these cookie cutter D, mile and a half ovals. And they've taken, I think, some of the better ones off the schedule, in the namesake of God knows what. I still don't know how Rusty Wallace's abomination of Iowa Speedway got a cup date, but we'll save that for another episode. But it's just some of the decisions that NASCAR is making with the schedule and how they've made with the car and how they're so hesitant to change it, even though you're 2 years in, you're getting your first, arguably your first refresh, um, two new hung bodies. Fords we've seen, Toyota we don't know whether they're coming next year in 24 or they're saving it for 25, but there has to be change. You can't just change the schedule and think that, oh, we'll figure the car out. Like, no, bro, you gotta let's figure the car out now so you can sell out the schedule. Attendance in person has been really great this year. That's a positive. That's gonna just save me for giving them a B for the Cup Series. NASCAR ratings are down on television wise at least. But I think that's just because there's more people interested in going out and seeing it in person. I think maybe people are still, a little, I wouldn't say scared, but there's a little standoffish about attending a race in person, since COVID and all of that stuff. But if there's fans in the stands when I look at the race on TV, it lets me know that the sport's doing fine. So hopefully this off season with the new transaction that um, they're testing a couple other things too. Hopefully, as a result of those innovations, if we can call it that, we'll get some better racing on somewhere on some point on the calendar next season. And then with Xfinity, there was a lot of good this year, and I think they're going to get my A just overall, just from a racing product, from Cole winning the championship, his losing the crown and getting it back. There are a lot of bright spots and positives that you can look at the Xfinity series and be proud of as a NASCAR fan. But as our listeners probably know, it's really really hard to be locked in some weekends and watch all three series of racing. Especially us. We made a promise to ourselves that we were going to deliver our best product of us for you guys to listen to week in and week out, which is why we're sitting here doing this right now. So it definitely takes some coffee and sometimes some Hennessy to sit down and watch all three of these series and bring you guys our thoughts and our viewpoints that y'all rock with. And once again, I appreciate y'all for that. But Xfinity was pleasant to watch. I'm glad they do their little promotional things. Is it the Xfinity Dash for Cash? Is that what that promotion's called?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, they Xfinity, shout out Xfinity. They spent a lot of money to create special programs or special in race tournaments to reward drivers for their successes. Um, really missed the No Bull 5. I know we don't smoke anymore NASCAR Cup Series, but we needed to figure out a way to get the Cup drivers to have a similar prize to shoot for. If Adam Silver has figured out he can pay every single member of a basketball team $500,000 to win a seemingly meaningless in-season tournament, y'all better find some money to reward these Cup drivers to do something. So maybe a March Madness thing, because the racing season will just be getting kicked off. There's no breaks when the NCAA tournament's going on. So if you're listening, NASCAR, let's get something on the Cup side, make the drivers shoot for it. But all in all, with the highs and the lows, it was a great season for NASCAR. We spoke about it. I think it was last episode, if not the one before, how you made your decision to be in the entertainment industry. And I felt like with the drama, the pit road incidents, and Matt Crafton being a little bitch, we get that shock value, those headlines. NASCAR's, a sports center top 10, event sometimes this year. And, once before when ESPN had the broadcasting rights, I feel like more often than not, you saw, but non-stick and ball sport getting national recognition. So it's always cool to get the Bleacher Report notifications or the ESPN notifications of to the NASCAR related, because they don't tend to follow the sport as closely any longer. But it's still cool to see that everybody else in the world gets to get a little peek into what we like to spend our Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and sometimes even Thursdays watching.
Go ahead, Danny. You got it.
Okay. So for my grades, so I guess we'll start with Cup, being the main series. Yeah, Cup for me is a C. Um, Granted, certainly amongst this group, it seems like I probably have a bit more time for the current gen car because I mean, let's be honest, we're a couple years into this thing. It's current gen, it's not really next gen anymore. But I seem to have more time for it than most of the folks here. Um, but yeah, just even I do occasionally find myself grumbling a bit about the on track product of this car. It's just, barring the intermediates, it's just not great. And much like Carl already alluded to, part of it was because, Gen 6 drove like, garbage basically at the intermediate. So they shuffle up the schedule a bit to help try to fix that. But now we have all these long term deals inked, and then we have a car that in most instances is, sort of middling at best. And I really think, and that's why I gave it the ranking that I did, is because, yeah, just like I said, it's just been okay. We'll see what happens next year. But I will say, if nothing else, holy crap, the current cars I think are very, very pretty. Um, Now, as for Xfinity, yeah, Xfinity really is the pick of the bunch right now. Um, the racing product is great. All the drivers behave themselves. It's just it's fun. For me, we talk about it a lot on here. I will certainly keep it brief. Run a coffee shop, so ergo Saturday night racing is tough for me to catch because I'm usually doing admin work in the evening. But I am never disappointed when I catch an Xfinity race. It's basically always a good time. Um, I think, and while again, I hesitate to say, reject, modernity, embrace tradition, but I certainly think that perhaps there are little bits and pieces here of the, Xfinity cars that, maybe could be transposed onto the Cup cars, certainly help them, drive a little bit and help with the perceived on-track product, and again, I should point out, I don't really mind the current cars as such. And, well, I watch, the procession that is Formula One. So it's just, I guess, as a matter of context, I certainly don't think the current gen cars are really that bad, all things considered, but perspective. Um, but truck series, again, I alluded to it before. I'll keep it quick, but just F. I and the part that frustrates me is that the trucks, if you when everybody can behave themselves, those trucks don't actually race too bad. But the issue is that nobody can behave. And it's like, and so every race turns into a demo derby, and you've got, a bunch of wadded up trucks every week. So just F. It's like, Carl said, I'm mad. So, in this case, the curve is not beneficial. Um, it's that that equation is negative in this case. It's like when we get, and I don't know, maybe this ship has sailed, but once, if we get a field of drivers who, all understand driving, racing each other cleanly, so on and so forth, I think the truck series can be super fun. I talked about it, oh goodness, probably 4 or 5 weeks ago now, but there was a period where the truck series was my favorite out of the three. I lived for trucks. And then the fact that every week is just an unmitigated nightmare now, it seems. every week it feels like is a new black eye, not even just for trucks, but just for the sport in general. It breaks my heart, honestly. Um, but yeah, no, it's like I said, trucks is just it's F. Try again next year. Try again next school year, and maybe you'll do a little bit better. But you are spending all off season, watching film and how y'all can drive better.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of I feel like if the truck series was a school, the board of education would be looking into them at this point with all of these scores. Might need to intervene there. It's this season has been tough for me personally. I'll be very honest. If it wasn't for doing the podcast, doing the show with my lovely cohorts here, and motivated to watch the shows, be invested in the races, to provide content for folks. I'm not trying to gas it up like, oh, y'all should be thankful that we give you content. But like, if it wasn't for that, I honestly would not have watched nearly as much racing this year as I have with past. I will continue to badmouth this car into the ends of the earth until it gets better. If this car only has one hater, it is me. And if this car has no haters, it's because I've left this earth, because I just absolutely cannot stand it. That being said, there was some really good bright spots to this season. I think about that summer stretch right when NBC took over. We had Chicago, Atlanta. Pocono was a good race. Richmond was solid for Richmond. There was a stretch from I'd say there's the Chicago or maybe even Nashville into the playoffs that things were just really good. And I just felt like it was, for me personally, it was must see TV. But then you had this stretch during the playoffs where it just wasn't hitting, and you look at the product, you look at the names that are winning, and you're like, oh, these are top names. That's entertaining. But if you watch the product week to week, like it for me, just it wasn't it. And we've talked about, everyone here has talked about, this car is really only good on one track. And it's just hard to watch. Like, I absolutely love, I mean, we all do, but I'm just gonna speak for myself. I absolutely love NASCAR, like with all of my fiber. Like, Danny and JT are great. They can watch all these different series and keep up with it. And I respect that so much, but I'm not built for that. I can't keep up with that. There's only one series that I am passionate about week in, week out. And it's this series of racing. And this Cup series, a lot of it was just really bad. And I think we can all just be honest about it and say, a lot of these races really weren't that great. Like, just because a race has a green, white checkered or a restart with 20 to go, or a driver you like wins, does not make it a good race necessarily. For me, I'm about the 51% rule. If I think at least 51% of the race is good, then it's passable. It's a good race. But there are just huge chunks of the season where I just felt like that was not the case. And it was just hard to watch. There were a couple nappers. I always talk about the nappers. There were some nappers on the show. The audience that I watch the races with every week, they're less and less engaged as the last 3 seasons have gone on. They're on their phones more. They're falling asleep more often. It's just difficult. So I'll give this season a C plus for a couple key races that went really well. I think the Chicago Street Course was the biggest highlight of the year for me. Like, it was just so different. It was so cool. I'm glad they were able to get it done under green and not have to go through the shortening that they had the night before. Like, that race just to me was really exciting. I love to see that. But like, there were these huge stretches where I was just like, this is terrible. Like, this is just terrible racing. And I really, really hope they fix it soon. Xfinity, you are the golden child. You are you are the middle child in the family that overachieves and gets all the freedom because you're getting these A pluses. Xfinity is fantastic. Don't mess with it on most of these tracks. Don't mess with that package. Give that data to the Cup Series, apply it to that Cup car, because Xfinity continues, and I'm going to hit the button. It's the best product every week. I give it an A minus. The only reason it's not an A or an A plus is just because wins were kind of top heavy with John Hunter's stealing. Stealing isn't the right word for him taking 7 trophies home. I'd like to see a little bit more parity there, but you know what? That's not his fault. It's everyone else's job to get faster. So I have to give Xfinity an A minus. And then the truck series, bro, we gotta have to talk, man. We gotta do some soul searching. We gotta look ourselves at the man in the mirror and figure out like what are we gonna do. I mean, it's an F minus. It's just an absolute F minus. We've talked on here about the broadcast, and I think that just kind of underscores how unserious these people are that they won't even have the announcers on site for it. Terrible finish, terrible racing. I just if it wasn't for this show, Craftsman, you would not be getting any eyeballs from me. I promise you, you didn't get no tweets, no YouTube views, no nothing. So I hope it's better. Like I look at the state of NASCAR, and I feel like this coming season is going to be a real pivotal one with this car because the first year was great from the Cup Series, right? There's all these unknowns. We had all these first-time winners. It was so exciting, and NASCAR sold us that, oh, this is going to be the car parity, and this is going to be what you can expect moving forward. And then this year, the Hendricks, the Gibbs, they figured it out. The Penske's at the end, they figured it out, and it was again a case of the haves and the have-nots. And I just need this car to deliver on 50% of the things that they've promised it will. And so far it hasn't. So I think I'm not going to say it's a make or break year because I feel like that's a bit dramatic, but this is a year they absolutely need to nail it. You can't come back and continue to have this type of performance year in and year out. And people will say, oh, there was a dialogue the other day on Twitter and they said, oh, at the tracks, attendance is great. You see these grandstands and they're packed. And you have to keep in mind that going to a race is so much. I made this point, but on Twitter, but I'm sure most of our users didn't see it, but going to a race is such a different level of commitment. And for you to spend your money to drive out to somewhere, pay for parking, pay for a hotel, tailgate, like it's a party. And I think that's great for NASCAR. I think that's one of the unique things about it versus maybe the average baseball game. But that versus watching something on TV, there's so much less commitment to watching something on TV. I can just, flick my thumb and change the channel. And I'm sorry, but you can't tell me that ratings don't matter anything. If all these sponsorships and all this money is tied into ratings, then they account for something. And the ratings have been down year over year for the last couple of years. So I just really want to see that improve. I really want this product to be amazing. I'm not expecting 2006, 2005 ever again, but just have a solid package, a solid product that the people can be proud of. And then you'll get that A from me. Like I feel like I'm a very fair grader, even though I badmouth NASCAR a lot of the time, but I feel like they deserve the bad mouthing. And I think on this show we do a good job of giving them praise when they deserve the praise. So study up, I guess, take this one on the chin, and hopefully, this time next year we're having a much more positive conversation, a much happier episode, maybe. And we'll be happily sing their praises all of next offseason if they earn it. So
Yeah. I don't know that I have anything to add. I mean, I really feel like our opinions all kind of resonate with one another, and I mean, I feel like it resonates really what the average fan um, is thinking right now. So, whew, I don't know, man. Art gave me a lot to think about. um, but
what's weighing on your mind?
well, I think that the biggest thing that I'm kind of thinking about is like just you talk about I don't want to get off on a tangent here, but it's just like you talk about like the logistics of going to a race, and I just kind of think about how long can NASCAR for the Cup Series anyway sustain like the fact that it's a party environment? Like you're spending, $1,000+ to go to a race. Like let's be very real. If you're traveling upwards of 4 hours to go to a racetrack, like I have to, right? You're spending probably $1,000 to go to a race. Between gas, food, room and board, hotel tickets, X, Y, and Z. Like I just wonder like how long can they fall back on like it's a party environment, you're with friends, you're with the whole circus that comes to town before like even that loses its allure because the on-track product for the big show, the big top show, the Sunday show is just not great. I mean, like they kind of put that in perspective for me. So I just kind of wonder about that, and I mean, and also, I mean, the other thing, we all gave the Truck Series an F, and I just wonder, like, are they aware of how much sustain there is for the production value of the Truck Series right now? Are they even going to attempt to move it in the right direction? Because like I just kind of see like this very worrying, and not to we have not really been like NASCAR alarmists like some content creators have been, right? But there is kind of this worrying trend of like the lower end series that they've been involved with. Like you look at Can-Am, you look at ARCA, and other truck series, where there's just been like no innovation. There's been like no try to refresh it or anything like that. Like it's just like, well, it is what it is. Here's your gruel. Either eat it or starve. So like, it's kind of mildly worrying. Like there's like, some posts from I don't know whatever that fake NASCAR magazine article deal is. It's like I forget what it's called, the Bleacher Report. I don't remember, but anyway, it's the one that goes around and it's like really like misleading headlines. It's not Bleacher, it's something else. But they were like, should NASCAR drop its bottom series? And it's like, well, obviously they're not going to drop it, but it's just like, man, like it really has gone downhill fast and quick the last couple of years. And it's like, are they even aware of that enough to try to like step in and do something to save it? I mean, I think it's just something to think about.
Yeah, and that's one of the issues that I have, I guess, with NASCAR, and I understand the logic behind it, but they, as a sanctioning body, will never openly admit when something's wrong or like when
Mhm.
they've made a mistake. They'll just make a change and say, okay, moving forward, this is now the set of rules, or this is the adjustment, or this is the point system, or whatever. There's never an acknowledgement of, hey, we recognize we made a mistake. We're going to try our best to rectify it. And like, I
Right.
get it. You're a business, you have sponsors, and like, you don't want to be seen in that kind of light. Like, I totally understand it. But if I'm the average fan, again, I don't give a shit about that. Like, I just want you to be transparent with me. And I feel like it would go a long way if the heads of NASCAR came out and were like, hey, we admit that, we're going to work to improve the product. It's not where we want it to be. We know about it. We've got some ideas in the pipeline. If anything makes it to where we're going to greenlight it for the season, we'll let you know. Like, honestly, for me, that's all I would need. Just acknowledgement of the issue, right? Acknowledge that the issue
Right.
exists. And then at least that you're working on it. Like, that goes so far, I think. That would give you so much more goodwill for a large segment of your hardcore fans that are slowly, falling to the wayside. And if I'm a fan, I'm on the fence about watching or going to a race. If you tell me like, hey, we're cooking something for the short track package, like we're gonna do all this testing in the off season, these are the dates we're gonna test. Well, then yeah, I might, answer that call from my Martinsville rep who's been blowing up my phone, and I might finally take them up on that offer for some tickets, because I recognize that you're putting in an effort to fix a problem. Like, I don't think any reasonable fan expects everything to be perfect all the time, but if you just stick your head in the sand publicly and say like, oh yeah, everything's fine, this is great, our product is as good as it's ever been, our field is as good as it's ever been, whatever, then I, as a fan, I have eyeballs. Like, the average person is not an idiot. Like, they can tell you that that's not true. And if they've been watching for more than 5 years, they can tell you that's not true.
Right.
So yeah, I just think it's it's frustrating where externally, and again, like if you're having all these conversations and doing it internally, call me as like the fan and like calm me down, talk me off the ledge, and be like, hey, this is what we're working on. You know, we can't give you all the details, obviously, but like just know we're putting effort in behind the scenes on it. Cool. That's all I need to know. Like,
Yeah.
I'll give you a fair shot when the season comes. And yeah, like to your point about going to a race versus watching it, like I have friends who are interested in NASCAR. They know about the show, but they don't watch it. They watch, you know, NFL every Sunday. And I always say, you know, oh, let me take you to Martinsville. Let me take you to Charlotte. Like, it's so much better in person. Like, it's so exciting. It's loud. You know, you can see, smell the cars, all that stuff. And they say, well, how much is that going to cost? Oh, well, then I got to drive a couple hours. Oh, and then, you know, I get back late and it's on a Sunday and I got work. Like, there's all these other factors. And I say, they'll say, oh, well, what time is it on TV? I watch it on TV. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't know if I want you to watch it on TV because, you know, the broadcast is spending half the time showing cartoon characters and the other half putting the camera on kids in the crowd. So, like, I don't really know if I want you to watch that. That may not be the best scenario for you to be introduced to it. But the average person isn't going to get their first exposure by going to a race. They're going to get it by watching on TV. And if that first touch point isn't sharpened up and buttoned up and in a better light than it currently is, they'll be like, oh, well, no, you blew your first impression. It's the only one you're going to get. And, you know, now you have to work to try to reel them back in. And that's just 1,000 times harder than it is just to nail it on the first time. And so I'm going to be hopeful. I'm not even optimistic because I followed this sanctioning body for the last 20 years of my life and I've seen their track record. So I'm going to be hopeful, but I'm not going to be optimistic. But like I said, if you at least say like, we're working on this thing, you know, people will give you the benefit of the doubt more often than not. Like these people want to give you their money, right? Like these fans want to buy your merch, want to go to your races, want to, you know, watch it on TV. But you got to meet them a little bit halfway. Like you can't just keep taking and taking, expecting them just to keep giving and giving.
I mean, I feel like just to bring up an earlier point on one of the other episodes that we sat down and had a lovely conversation about, if NASCAR is choosing violence because they want to grasp that entertainment factor, the Truck Series is doing exactly what they needed to do.
Without a doubt. Yeah, absolutely.
If you want the crashes and the wrecks and the fights, and you want that to get people interested in your product, and then as they learn to love it, then they can get more knowledgeable about the technical aspects, the analytics behind it, the point system, things of that nature. You're doing exactly what you want to do. I just wish that it wasn't like that. But if I'm NASCAR and I'm pressing the button for violence and this is what I want it to be,
Yeah.
they're probably mildly successful. The only way that I could see it pushed as a further actual success is like we talked about. Y'all need to have a conversation with the people you got the television broadcast to deal with for your Truck Series.
Yeah.
You have to get some life in that booth, some excitement in that booth. We say it all the time. I'm counting down to F1 practice right now just because of the fact that those commentators make me feel like they're either on the brink of death or the brink of a win, and it's lap 3 of a 78 lap Grand Prix. They keep me that in tune. Like everything,
absolutely.
They're always on the edge of their seats. Like we need that if you want to be. Let's just wreck this stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
make me feel like I'm here for something. Then.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And one last thing, just because we're focused on the wrap up, and what Jarrett touched on is, you know, back in my day, to pull that card, but back in my day, you know, the excitement was that these are athletes strapped in metal monsters driving 200 miles an hour, 3 inches apart from each other. And yes, there were wrecks, and yes, there were fights, and there was drama, but that all was the icing on the cake. That was the dessert from the meal. That wasn't the whole meal. Like NASCAR, I can't eat a meal of just icing and come back to it every day. Like, there reaches a point of diminishing returns where it's like, okay, how many times am I going to watch a guy shove the other guy on pit road? You know, like eventually folks will become desensitized to it. You know, like we saw the Priest wreck was awful, but if you had 8 Priest wrecks a year, God forbid, like, is the 7th really going to matter as much as the first? Like, people aren't going to just keep coming back for that as your main draw. The main draw is supposed to be, these are the greatest stock car drivers in the world. Come watch them do what they do. You know,
Right.
these are modern day gladiators and these are their chariots and like whatever kind of marketing jargon you want to use for it. But like, that was the appeal. And like, yeah, if you saw a fight at a Bristol or a Darlington or whatever, oh man, that's great. That's wild. But like, you didn't expect it, you know, outside of like a Talladega or a Daytona. When I was growing up in this, I never expected there to be a wreck, and I didn't watch it for the wrecks. And like 100%, I know there's some people screaming at us right now. I recognize that like that audience was there, and that was a big part of NASCAR's appeal to some folks. But your core audience that's gonna come back week in, week out, they want to see good racing. Like if I wanted to watch cars get crushed, you know, I could go watch a monster truck and I can see all the cars get wrecked and there's fire and there's pyro and they run over and, you know, parts are broken off. I don't want to see that every week. I want to see good racing. And like if you don't give me good racing, then eventually I'm gonna go find it somewhere else. You know, F1 blew up the last couple of years in America, you know, with Drive to Survive and that style of racing. You know, IndyCar is still here. Like eventually folks will find something to watch. And if you're not providing them what they want, then buddy, you're in big trouble. But I think they've really gotten that backwards. Like I said, it was the cherry on top. It wasn't the whole meal. And it feels like it's presented that way in the opposite. Like we talked about earlier about the broadcast, right? Like, oh, there's the drama, oh, the playoff implications or whatever. Like, no, I just came to watch this race. I don't want to think about the playoffs in 6 weeks from now. And it's so frustrating because like you did this 20 years ago. Just do some of those same things and then apply the modern stuff to it. Like apply the social media stuff to it, you know, all of those fun technological advances, like do all that to it. And it's like the answers are right there. You're just choosing to go somewhere else because you think it'll give you like a quick buck in terms of getting audience in. And like over your long-term health, like it's not worth it. You know, it does not pay off. I'm getting into like work mode now with like marketing, but like it just does not pay off because when people come expecting wrecks and you go 6 weeks without a giant wreck, they're probably not going to stick around because you've conditioned them to expect that. And you're now not delivering on what you promised them.
Yeah. I think the only thing that I want to leave with on that is I think maybe NASCAR is leaning on this Drive to Survive style show they've got coming out to kind of, I guess, maybe look at like, is this direction that we're heading in something that is generating interest from like outside? Like if we show people who aren't NASCAR fans this overproduced, edited, out of context version of the most intense part of our season, will it draw people in? And maybe with that information, they can, if it goes the way they don't want it to go, they can perhaps make some indicative changes. But I don't know. Like I said, I don't have. Yeah, I mean, it's, I didn't mean for this to turn into just this like whole extra episode of what's wrong with NASCAR, but I mean it is needed and it's needed to talk about. And I will say that it is noticeable. There was a time, and not to be like back in my day, but there was a time like not too long ago, I would say like 13, 14, 15, somewhere in there, where there was a sect of fans that were like, like, man, like NASCAR is kind of like losing like traction. And you couldn't say that. Like people got mad about that. You could not talk about it. Like people were still willfully defending it. And now, like, the public opinion is like, I think if you really took stock, I think almost everybody feels that way. Like everybody's like, yeah, a lot of things have to change. Like we can no longer just like gleefully like plug our ears on that. So Well, I don't know. Just hopefully the tides potentially are changing. Like I said, I a lot of it to me goes back to this car for the Cup Series. It sounds like they're trying to assess that, and I hope that they use lessons learned from this year in the two failing series, in my opinion, in Trucks and Cup, and maybe move forward with some innovative changes to maybe make it not as bad going forward. But outside of that, any closing thoughts?
That I guess, given the way we've ripped on the Truck Series, if we're going to carry out the school analogy to its logical conclusion, then somebody is calling its parents.
Yes, yes, Mr.
We've
Truck
got,
Series, please stay after class.
Yeah,
Mr. Craftsman.
we've got suspensions. We've got a lot of homework. You got a lot of winter
Yeah, you
reading.
gotta do that.
Usually it's summer reading, but y'all got some winter work to do.
Just get the ruler and just smack the knuckles. That's ouchy enough to make a Mac right. Stop on the knuckles.
Well, so with that being said, we hope you enjoyed this 3-part dive into who passed and who failed this year. And to continue with the school analogies, class dismissed. We'll see y'all in a couple of weeks with some other off-season productions. Thank y'all so much for listening to us. And like I said, be sure to give us your thoughts on the socials. And we'll talk to y'all later.
We invite dialogue. We're not bullies. We enjoy interacting with the fans.
And
Please.
y'all can bully Jared. Don't listen to him. Like, feel free.
Please bully me.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna say this. If you have any
smoke,
any smoke for us, any complaints, any beef, any just general comments that you want to give that aren't so positive, please direct those on X at 414 Mile Bonte. He can field those with a level head and deal with all that. So thank y'all again so much for listening. We greatly appreciate it. We look forward to bringing y'all some more fun stuff like this during the off season. And if we don't talk to you before then, have a great Thanksgiving.
See ya.
Until next time.